Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode. My name's Sean Wasserkrug, and today we're going to be reviewing Robert Eggers' The Northman. Now, for me, Robert Eggers is someone who I kind of figured out a couple years back with The Lighthouse. I did not see The Witch, so I really don't have any recollection of how well that movie is. I know a lot of people have talked that movie up as a really great film, but I tried watching it. It just really wasn't for me. But The Lighthouse, which came out, I think it was 2-3 years back with Pattinson and Dafoe, was awesome. It was beautifully shot, beautifully directed, great performances all around. So when I saw the trailer for The Northman, obviously the first thing I thought of was it's an Eggers film. It's going to be kind of weirdly shot, very dark, very kind of artsy, maybe won't work for a lot of people. But when I saw the trailers for this, and I saw kind of how they were shooting it and the cast, it definitely left me more excited for what this was going to be. I love Viking stories. I was a huge fan of the History Channel show Vikings. I loved that aspect. If anyone has ever checked out the show Vikings, it's basically kind of like Sons of Anarchy meets Game of Thrones in a Viking setting. Definitely worth checking out if you guys have never seen Vikings, the show itself. So when I saw this type of setting, it was definitely something I was really intrigued by. Also, Alexander Skarsgard. I've been a fan of Alexander Skarsgard since I very first saw him in Zoolander, but most people will know him from True Blood. But sadly, since True Blood, I really haven't liked much of anything Alexander has done since then, and I've been really waiting to see him kind of do a breakout role, something for us to take notice of, instead of seeing him as just Eric Northman from True Blood. You also got Nicole Kidman, who's always solid in pretty much everything she's in. You got Ethan Hawke. You've got Anya Taylor-Joy, who's, to me, one of the best actresses working today. You got Willem Dafoe. And you got Claes Bang. I'm probably saying that wrong. I apologize. So a very solid cast for this story. This is not necessarily a story that we haven't seen before. I mean, it's very almost Gladiator-esque in a sense, which anyone who is a fan of Gladiator, this kind of follows a little bit of that formula, so that's a big plus for you with a Robert Eggers kind of approach. I will say the first 20 minutes is probably the most Robert Eggers of the film, where you're going to get some weird visuals, some weird acting choices, and stuff that might turn someone off who's not used to the Robert Eggers type of direction. But once we get to Alexander Skarsgard's adult Amleth, which, for anyone who doesn't know the plot, we're following a Viking king. Ethan Hawke plays King Arvavandel, War Raven. I'm going to say all these names wrong. I apologize. He's basically betrayed and killed by his brother, Fulner. Like I said, I'm going to say all these names wrong. But as Fulnir tries to kill his son, Amleth, Amleth escapes and vows to come back and save his mother, played by Nicole Kidman, and basically get revenge on Fulnir for his father's death. And then we jump ahead years later where Amleth is grown up, now played by Alexander Skarsgård, and we're watching his mission, his revenge tour to try and get back and take revenge for his father's death. Along the way, he meets Anya Taylor-Joy, who plays Olga, and you're basically kind of watching them work through, not necessarily the ranks, but basically work their way into Fulnir's camp and gain trust and kind of go from there to the inevitable conclusion of the film. Alexander Skarsgård, to me, puts on his best performance to date. Skarsgård put a lot of work into this character. Granted, he's always been a really fit guy, if anyone's seen him in Tarzan, but Skarsgård puts in Chris Hemsworth Thor-like efforts into this film of putting his body through the ringer. I feel like Skarsgård's character has this torturous revenge path, which obviously based off the character we get, but Skarsgård to me puts on a masterful performance, hands down the best performance I've ever seen him do. You can see the pain and the betrayal in his eyes every time he's around Fulnir, and the wanting to reach out and save his mother whenever he sees Nicole Kidman's Queen Gudrun. And there's just so much in terms of layers to Skarsgård's character. Now, a lot of people just say, oh, well, he's just on a revenge trip. He just wants to kill, kill, kill. But you're seeing a man who's going towards fate to try and make amends for his father. But you also see a man who wants to kind of find his own path with Olga, played by Anya Taylor-Joy. And you see this kind of internal struggle and battle with him, that he feels like he needs to do what he needs to do by his father, but he also kind of wants to carve his own path. And it's that dilemma that he goes through this film that you're really going to kind of find and love in the performance between Skarsgård. Nicole Kidman, they're about halfway through the film. The first half, she's not given a whole lot to do except kind of be the queen and damsel and all this. But halfway through the film, Nicole Kidman puts on one of her better performances in recent memory that I actually really enjoyed, to the point where it made me kind of stop taking this going, damn, Kidman's really going for this role. And whenever she is on screen, especially after the halfway point of the film, I was basically on the edge of my seat waiting for what she was going to do next. I loved Nicole Kidman's performance in this film. Anya Taylor-Joy, she's great in everything. I don't think I've ever really seen a bad performance. Even in bad movies, she's still one of the better performances, like New Mutants. But Anya plays a great character in Olga. She's basically that balance for Skarsgård. He can basically just go berserker mode, but she kind of coaches him on, but also can kind of bring him back to his normal ways throughout the film. She also has this kind of dark fury in her as well, that when she lets it unleash, it's some of the better Anya performance I've seen in a long time. I really enjoyed her overall. Claes Bang as Fulnir, I actually enjoyed him. I don't really know much about him personally as an actor, but I really enjoyed his performance overall. Willem Dafoe, when he's in the film, he's doing basically Willem Dafoe. If you like Willem Dafoe, you're going to enjoy it as well. This film is beautifully shot. It's, like I said, it's Robert Eggers, so it's very artistic in its approach, some very kind of brutality and viciousness in a lot of the kills and visuals, but there are so many shots in this movie that you could just take a picture and make it a screensaver. You really feel like, especially in the third act, hell on earth is happening around them. Probably the best volcano battle sequence we've seen probably since episode 3. I loved most of the decisions that was done in this film. Could they have done a little more story with Fulnir and Queen Gudrun's characters prior to Skarsgård showing up? Absolutely. Could we have gotten a little more of Anya Taylor-Joy's character in this movie? Absolutely. But the movie does clock in at 2 hours and 17 minutes, and that would have probably made it a 3-hour film. But those are just things I wish we would have gotten more of. But what we do get in this film is a beautifully brutal Viking film that I was all for. It's probably the best Vikings film I've seen. I can't really think of any other Vikings movies off the top of the head right away, but I loved the performances. I love the choices that were made in this film. I love the artistic approach that Eggers does, the way he shot it, the cinematography of the film, the brutality of the fight sequences, everything about this film I loved. I strongly, strongly recommend this movie. This movie's not going to be for everybody, just like Everything, Everywhere, All at Once was, but not to that kind of extent. If you like action films or you're a fan of Gladiator and stuff like that, I think you guys will be able to enjoy The Northman. You just kind of have to kind of embrace the artistic design and approach that Eggers brings to this film. And if you can do that, I think you're going to enjoy this movie quite a bit. I'm going to give The Northman a 92%. It is one of the best films of the year that I've seen so far. I cannot wait to check this out again on 4K and on my 4K TV. It's going to be breathtaking. There's so many shots that I can just think back to and just be in awe of what I looked at. And like I said, Skarsgård's performance to me was top-notch. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, you have to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Reviews for The Bad Guys and The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent are on the site right now. This week's episode of the Movie Crusaders Chat About, where Brian Michaels and myself was going to talk about cult movies, has been canceled. We may revisit this later down the year, but we didn't feel like we had enough to talk about for this episode, so we decided to cancel it. We will be back next week with Brian and I talking about the summer movie preview. And then other movies coming out. There's nothing really coming out next week to my knowledge, so we will be back, or I will be back in 2 weeks for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness for my birthday movie. We probably will also have a spoiler review with that as well with Brian. But we also have last week's episode of the Movie Crusaders Chat About, where we talk about reboots, remakes, requels, and OG films. I thought that was a fun episode. Feel free to check that out. But yeah, until next time, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.
you're still here. It's over. Go home.